Hey there, this is Derek Murphy. I wanted to bring your attention to a software for plotting a timeline of your novel called Plottr and a template based on my own writing outline that I have shared on creativity.com. So this is the Plottr website and it basically looks like this. I wasn't entirely sold because I do all of my plotting, I do all of my plotting in Microsoft Word. I've tried a lot of other things like Scrivener, and I haven't found any other app that I enjoy enough or more than Microsoft Word. However, for very visual writers, it can get a little disorienting to just try to do an outline in your Word document. So if you're not familiar with my writing resources, I've been writing for about 5 years. I read all the books about plotting and outlining, but I had a lot of trouble. So I came up with this little chart, which is the plot dot. And the main thing I had trouble with plotting my novel was figuring out the ending. And that's because actually there are several different points, and there's actually two different battles. There's the battle that you lose that leads to the dark night of the soul, and then the final battle. And this balance helped me to be able to plot books that were a lot better and also avoid some of the holes that other plotting systems left. But I wanted to see if I could go even further into a chapter by chapter plot outline, which I did come up with that looks like this. And a lot of these I'm using common language from other writing systems that you might find familiar, but the exact positioning and layout is different, specifically because most other writing software or writing formulas, they have Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3, but actually Act 2 is twice as long. The middle of your book is 50% of the book, and most other chapter plotting outlines don't really take that into account, which leaves you with a really soggy middle and you don't know what to put in there. So I went ahead and made a downloadable template for Microsoft Word, Google Docs, Scrivener, and Open Office. But someone just recently made this inside of Plottr, so I wanted to check that out so that I could share that with you. In case you lose Plottr, in case you use Plottr, or in case you're looking for some kind of a timeline, I have seen a lot of people ask me, just keeping track of the events in your book, what's the best timeline software to use? And Plottr is the clear winner here. It's meant for writing fiction. So this Plottr, I'm not completely familiar with all of the features on using Plottr. You can, look at other tutorials for that. But I'm just going to kind of show off this particular template that someone made based on my writing resources. So you have Act 1, and then you have, every chapter going through here. And this is chapter 4, this is chapter 4, this is Act 1, so it's here. Then you get into Act 2. So over here at chapter 7, that's where you get into Act 2. And so there's a little bit of a note here that, roughly shares a very brief introduction to, and these aren't like very specific what has to happen in this chapter. This is a very rough prompt. Like generally by the 7th chapter, you've established the ordinary world and you've moved into the extraordinary world where you'll be exploring the new world. So these are just sort of prompts based on roughly where you might be in your novel, what kinds of things might happen. And you can move these around, but these are kind of, there's a reason that all of these things are in the place that they're in based on lots and lots and lots of research and study. So, these are just meant as props to start developing your novel. Once you've figured out what actually happens in your book, you can delete the prompts and reorganize your outline. Like I will usually, once I figure out what actually happens in chapter 9, I would retitle the chapter with what happens, and even down here. So if I click on any of these, like what's going to happen in chapter 9, I can delete this, and I can, once I figure out what actually happens in that chapter, I can write a short, like my own summary of what's going to happen. I probably wouldn't do like, actually writing my entire book here, although you might be able to actually. I haven't really played around with testing the software or like whether or not I could write all these chapters and then export it all as one big folder or file. You probably can. There's even all this formatting stuff in here, which I think is pretty cool. But the cool thing is, similar to kind of Scrivener, if I wanted to, I could add a characters list, or from my characters list, I could choose the characters that are present in this chapter. I could choose based on my places list if I had a list of different settings and their descriptions. So I could add the characters in the place and then any other tags. I could even add different colors to, you know, to signify something. But that means I think if I did do this, then I could really quickly at a glance keep track of, where is this chapter and who is in this chapter, which could be really helpful when you're writing the scene or doing edits. It's kind of a little bit like a book Bible, a story Bible, where you keep track of, what everybody looks like and where everybody is and whether they're in the chapter or not, stuff like that, which is really cool. If I go under characters here and want to choose a character, I can choose the name, I can add a short description, I can even choose a thumbnail, which is kind of cool. So for example, there's a picture of me. I could add notes, attributes, other cool stuff. And then I think if I go back to I haven't actually started a project yet, but I could start a new project. And Creative Indie is spelled like that, without the E. But if I go back into my timeline, and I clicked on a chapter and I added a character, now I can add this character to that chapter. I don't really know what that's going to do. I guess I would still have to click on here and then I can quickly see the characters that are there and all this stuff. So it's pretty neat where you can really keep good track. I would use this for like plotting or outlining. I don't know that I would use this for drafting an entire book or writing a book. But I do see the use case. I mean, obviously, this is a pretty good way of keeping track of, what happens. You could even plot the entire thing and then probably what happens if I export. Oh, you could export this to MS Word, which is great, or you could export it to Scrivener. So like I could plot out my entire timeline here and then put it into a Word file so that when I'm actually actively writing, I tend to write my sprints on like an iPhone or an iPad with a Bluetooth keyboard, and then I'll import all of those words into my Word document. So this would be like another way to really get a strong, a strong template, a strong specific brainstorming template, and then put in, use it to build up an actual book. I was gonna see if there's probably a way to like zoom out and then I was gonna see if you could like print out this entire thing as like a poster of your timeline once you've, changed all of the headings and stuff. I think that could be really cool. But anyway, check out Plottr if you haven't already. I'm gonna put this version on my website so that if you use Plottr, you can download this template for Plottr. But I've been talking with Ryan Z of Plottr, and I think he's actually going to include my template within the program so that when you're using Plottr, let's see, I think you'd have to go, yeah, so inside of the program, if I go up to, if I go up to File, Create from Template, I get this page, and then there's this list of starter templates, which is pretty neat, and they've got all the big famous ones here, although like I mentioned, I'm not a fan of any of the other ones because I don't think they are as good as my own. I know that sounds, terrible, but I've read and studied all of the other ones, and most of them are based on Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey, but they leave too much of a gap in the middle section. So while they're really good to kind of start getting an idea of your story and you just get the major turning points, of course, are as important, they sort of break down on the chapter by chapter, what do you actually put here? So like after you use all of these, you're still going to be probably sort of stuck with some missing gaps. And I think that's what my template really helps to fix. So I believe they're going to add my template in here so that if you use Plottr, you can just import the template really quickly. I hope that's useful for you. If so, leave me a comment, or go grab my plotting resources on Creativity, or go buy Plottr if you want to try it out. It's cheap. I think it's like 20 bucks a year or something right now. But I would, guess that once more people start using it, the price will probably go up. I do think they've done a lot of work on it. I do think it looks pretty good. So I'm happy to be, sharing my resources within a program like this that should make it easier for people to write novels. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.